Welcome to the Great Unlearning channel with Chris Native.
Who am I? Self-inquiry. Education consists mostly of what we have unlearned. Mark Twain. Self-inquiry is the path to the recognition of our true nature. It is the path to the recognition of the unchanging awareness that underlies all of our experiences. It is the path to liberation from the limited perspective of the body and mind and the recognition of our true identity as pure awareness or pure consciousness. The key to self-inquiry is the simple but profound question, who am I? This question points us inward, away from the endless distractions of the external world, and towards the source of our being. At first, this question may seem daunting or even absurd. We may feel as though we already know who we are. We may identify with our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, or with the roles we play in our daily lives. But all of these identifications are fleeting and transient. They come and go like waves on the surface of the ocean, while the deep stillness of awareness remains. To engage in self-inquiry is to turn our attention towards that stillness. It is to recognize that all of our experiences arise within awareness, and that awareness itself is unchanging and ever present. I would love to hear your opinion on this channel. Please comment. The practice of self-inquiry begins by being still, quiet, and bringing our attention to the present moment. We observe the thoughts, feelings, and sensations that arise within us without judgment or resistance. We simply observe them as they come and go. Then, we turn our attention towards the question, who am I? We ask this question not with the intention of finding a specific answer, but with the intention of recognizing the awareness that is asking the question. As we continue to ask this question, we may notice that the answer is not found in our thoughts, feelings, or beliefs. Rather, it is found in the space between our thoughts, in the stillness that underlies all of our experiences. This recognition of our true nature as awareness or consciousness is not a mental concept or belief. It is a direct experience that arises from our own investigation. It is the recognition that we are not the limited, transient self that we have identified with for so long, but rather the infinite, eternal awareness that underlies it all. Of course, this recognition is not always easy to come by. We may encounter resistance or doubt as we embark on this path of self-discovery. As we engage in self-inquiry, we might encounter doubts about our competence or our advancement. However, the essence of self-inquiry is that it transcends the dualistic notions of correct or incorrect methods. There is only the simple and profound question, who am I? And the willingness to explore that question with openness and curiosity. As we continue to explore this question, we may find that our perspective on life begins to shift. We may begin to see our experiences as opportunities for growth and learning, rather than as obstacles or challenges. We may begin to recognize the interconnectedness of all beings and to see that we are not separate from the world around us, but rather that we are the very essence of that world. This recognition of our true nature as awareness is not a static or final state. It is a continuous unfolding, a never-ending journey of discovery, and a continuous unveiling of the self-luminous being. But each step on this journey brings us closer to the recognition of our true nature and to the liberation that comes with it. Remember that the recognition of our true nature as awareness is not something that can be attained through effort or striving. It is already present within us, always and everywhere. All we need to do is turn our attention towards it and allow it to reveal itself. In this way, self-inquiry is not a practice of adding something new to ourselves, but rather of letting go of what is not true. It is a process of recognizing the limitations and illusions of the body and mind, and resting in the boundless peace and freedom of our true nature as awareness. This discovery can be liberating and exhilarating at first. We feel free from all the limitations and constraints that we have imposed on ourselves. We feel spacious and expansive as we recognize our true nature as pure awareness. We feel alive and vibrant as we realize our connection with all existence. But this discovery can also be challenging and unsettling at times. We may face resistance from our old habits, patterns, and religious or cultural conditioning that try to pull us back into identification with form. We may encounter doubts from our rational mind that tries to dismiss our experience as delusional or irrational. We may face opposition from our society or culture that tries to conform us to its norms and expectations. To thank you for your support on this channel in this first series, you can watch a music video of the theme song by following a link at the end of this video. In a different series, I will write a new theme track and you can further support this channel by buying the track of every series at your chosen price. Thank you for your support. To truly understand the essence of self-inquiry, we must turn our attention to the life and teachings of Sri Ramana Maharshi. Born in India in the late 19th century, Ramana Maharshi is considered one of the most profound sages of our era. At the age of 16, he experienced a spontaneous awakening, a profound realization of his true self as pure consciousness. This realization never left him, and he lived in constant awareness of his identity with the ultimate reality and became a living embodiment of awakened consciousness. Renowned for his simplicity and austerity, Ramana Maharshi possessed nothing more than a walking stick and a loincloth. His teachings focused on self-inquiry as a path to realize one's true nature. He imparted his wisdom in the sublime and unique manner of silence. He seldom spoke, and when he did, he often said that he spoke only to accommodate questions of those who could not grasp the primal teaching of silence. When I first beheld the Maharshi, the great teacher and sublime sage of our era, I instantly discerned his state of liberation, or what the Sanskrit tongue calls a Jivan Mukta. A Jivan Mukta is one who has realized his true nature as identical with all living beings, and has transcended the bondage and delusion of his separate self. The remarkable thing about the Maharshi was that unlike most aspirants who seek liberation from the false ego, and who only attain fleeting glimpses of the supreme reality that come and go in brief flashes, the liberation of the sage was constant and irreversible. Such a vision is rare, and I can only name a few Jivan Muktas, or liberated souls, in history who have undergone such an irreversible transformation. Some of those I remember were figures like the illustrious Indian prince Siddhartha Gautama, who became the Buddha and awakened to his true self under the Bodhi tree about 2,500 years ago. Another Jivan Mukta or liberated soul was the Palestinian rabbi Yeshua bin Yusuf, or Joshua the son of Joseph, from the mystical Judaic sect of the Nazarenes, who realized that the awareness of being, which we commonly call I, is non-different from the Father of which he spoke about was simply a symbol of the creative principle, consciousness itself. He often said to those close initiates who could understand him that I and the Father are one, meaning that the thought and feeling, I am, that we all possess, and consciousness, as is being discussed on this channel, is the same. Joshua, the son of Joseph, often spoke in parables because those who could not comprehend him at the time were not ready for this perennial teaching, and thus, at the time, it was reserved for only a few. Others were the Bodhidharma, another liberated Indian prince and Buddhist monk who brought the teachings of Shaolin to the East. Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher and poet who revealed the primordial teachings of the Tao, was another. Then there was Zhuangzi, the enigmatic Chinese philosopher and a student of the works of Lao Tzu, who lived nearly 300 years after Lao Tzu and also expressed the perennial philosophy in his own style. You can watch a future and forthcoming episode on the Great Unlearning channel, explaining in detail what the perennial philosophy is, according to the English writer and philosopher Aldous Huxley. In Sri Ramana Maharshi's presence, the liberated soul or Jivan Mukta of our century, the minds of those who sat with him would settle into a profound stillness and clarity. The sage's benevolence radiated throughout the land, and he ensured that every being in his vicinity received nourishment, and that all provisions were distributed equally, even to the creatures that wandered by. This was because he recognized the same essence within himself as identical to every sentient being. As a 16-year-old youth, he departed from his home to contemplate at the base of the Arunachala hills, and when he entered Samadhi, which is a profound state of communion with the divine within himself, often disregarding his physical body for years at a time, the caretakers who recognized him as a Maharshi or sage constructed the infrastructure around him, which today has become the renowned ashram that it is. It is important to acknowledge that the temple with amenities and kitchens was not erected at his behest or command. Every edifice that we know today around the hill sprang up merely because of his presence. During his time in this intense state of samadhi or inner reflection, that which we call grace preserved his physical form merely by his connection to the source of all existence within himself. This source of all existence is the ever-present awareness of being or consciousness that I will continually elucidate on in this series. The source of being is available to each and every one of us regardless of our personal beliefs. The great sage of Arunachala taught that this source is available to each and every being in equal measure. This is worth repeating, and I reiterate, this source of being is available to each and every one of us in equal measure regardless of our personal beliefs. Self-inquiry, as he taught, is the practice of turning one's attention away from external objects and shining it towards the subject, which is oneself. By inquiring into the nature of the self, one can directly recognize their own essential nature, which is pure consciousness. This recognition leads to the revelation of the unity of all things and the realization that the individual self is an inseparable part of the larger whole. It teaches that the goal of spiritual practice is to realize the identity of one's true self with the supreme reality, leading to liberation from the cycle of birth and death. This realization brings about an enlightenment or an awakening which, although are exotic words, is simply the recognition of your true being, a state of permanent happiness and peace. Through self-inquiry, we transcend the illusion of separation and ego, experiencing the unity of all things. The inquiry into who am I leads us to negate various aspects of our existence. The gross body composed of the physical humors does not define our true identity. Similarly, the cognitive sense organs that perceive the world and the vital airs that sustain our bodily functions are not the essence of our being. Even the mind with its thoughts and nescience cannot encapsulate our true nature. These elements are objects of awareness, but they do not define the core of our being. After negating all these aspects, what remains is pure awareness alone. This awareness is the essence of our true nature, consciousness in its primary state. It is the eternal presence that transcends the limitations of the physical and mental realms. This awareness, devoid of any particular form or attribute, is the essence of who we truly are. The nature of awareness can be understood as the convergence that leads to the doorway of existence, consciousness, and bliss, or as known in the Sanskrit language as Sat, Chit, Ananda. It is the very fabric of reality that underlies all experiences and illuminates the world. This awareness is not bound by time or space, and its existence is self-evident. It is the source of all knowledge and the foundation upon which everything is known and experienced. The realization of the self, the true nature of our being, is attained when the illusory world of appearances is transcended. It is when we recognize that the world we perceive or see is not separate from the seer. As long as we hold on to the belief that the external world is an absolute reality, the true self remains veiled. The removal of the external world allows us to realize our inherent divinity and experience our true nature. The realization of the self does not occur while we continue to perceive the world as real. Our teacher, the great sage of Arunachala, Ramana Maharshi, once gave the analogy of the rope and the snake. Try to remember the analogy of the rope, which looks like a snake in twilight, he said. If you see the rope as a snake, the real nature of the rope is hidden from you. If you only see the rope, the snake is not there. Not only that, you know that there was never a snake there to begin with. Then the question of how to kill the snake disappears. In light of this analogy, if you can understand that this little self, the false ego, never at any time had any existence. Outside your imagination, like the snake, you will not be concerned about ways and means of getting rid of it. It is only by transcending this belief and recognizing the illusory nature of the world that we can attain self-realization. The world as an object of perception can be dissolved when the mind becomes tranquil and devoid of incessant thoughts. When the mind, which is the source of all cognitive functions and actions, attains stillness, the world of appearances fades away. It is through the quiescence of the mind that the illusory nature of the world is revealed. The mind is a remarkable power inherent in the self. It is responsible for the emergence of thoughts and the projection of the world. However, the mind itself is nothing apart from thoughts. In deep sleep, when thoughts cease, the mind dissolves and the world vanishes. In the waking and dream states, thoughts emerge and the world appears accordingly. The mind is like a spider spinning its web, creating the illusion of the world and retracting it back into itself. The path of inquiry into the nature of the mind begins by recognizing that the thought eye originates in the center of your being. This center is not in time and space. By tracing the source of the I thought, one can discover its origin, central to your being. The I thought is the primary thought from which other thoughts emerge. The I thought is thus the source of all other thoughts. Prior to this first thought, which is I, no other thoughts can exist. By relentlessly inquiring into the source of this thought, one can eventually lead the mind back to its origin, awareness or pure consciousness. Through persistent practice, the mind gains the ability to abide in its source. The mind can be rendered quiescent through the inquiry, who am I? This powerful question acts as a catalyst for dispelling all other thoughts. Just as a stick used to stir a burning pyre is eventually consumed by the fire, the thought who am I ultimately consumes all other thoughts. Through this process, the mind becomes still and self-realization naturally arises. For the seeker ready for self-inquiry to continually hold on to the thought, who am I? In daily life, one should refrain from pursuing other thoughts that arise. Instead, one should inquire into the source of those thoughts, seeking to understand to whom they arise. Regardless of the number of thoughts that arise, diligent inquiry into their origin reveals that they arise in the source of self, which is awareness or consciousness. By redirecting the attention back to the question, who am I? The mind returns to its source and the arising thoughts subside. With practice, the mind develops the ability to remain rooted in its source, the self. When the mind abides in the heart, which is the center of being, the sense of self dissolves and the eternal self shines forth. Acting without ego, all actions become imbued with the essence of divinity. Although there are various methods that aid in calming the mind, inquiry into the self is the most effective means. Other practices, such as breath control, meditation on deities, chanting mantras, or dietary restrictions, can temporarily subdue the mind. However, they do not dissolve the mind back into its source, which is the purpose of self-inquiry as the gateway on this direct path towards the recognition of our true being. Breath control, for example, may temporarily calm the mind, but as soon as the breath returns to its natural rhythm, the mind resumes its wandering tendencies. These practices can support the process of rendering the mind quiescent, but they do not lead to the dissolution of the mind back into its source. The residual impressions or thoughts of objects arise continuously, resembling the waves of an ocean. The destruction of these impressions occurs as the meditation on the self deepens. Through persistent self-inquiry and contemplation, the power of these impressions gradually diminishes. For those who are ready for the adventure into self, practice of self-inquiry should be continued as long as there are impressions of objects in the mind. In the beginning at least, the electromagnetic pull of thoughts should be dissolved as they arise through diligent self-inquiry. By persistently contemplating the self until it is realized, one can attain the goal. Just as a fortress remains vulnerable as long as enemies continue to emerge, the mind needs continuous vigilance until all thoughts are resolved. I would love to hear your opinion on this channel. Please comment. The true self is beyond any identification with thought and is ultimately characterized by silence. However, as a concession to the teaching, I use words, but only merely to point towards that truth, which is absolute silence. This silence is the ultimate reality, the ground of all being, where all distinctions or objective content dissolve. In our ceaseless pursuit of happiness, we often find ourselves searching in the outer world, seeking joy and fulfillment through various experiences, possessions, objects, substances, or relationships. However, the primordial teaching reminds us that authentic happiness lies not in external circumstances, but within our own being. True happiness, according to the perennial teaching, is not a fleeting emotion that arises and disappears with changing conditions. It is the very essence of our existence, ever present and unchanging. It is the substratum upon which all experiences unfold, like the steady canvas upon which colors and forms are painted. To discover this abiding happiness, we must turn our attention inward and inquire into the nature of our own being. We must transcend the restless mind and its constant cravings, recognizing that happiness cannot be found in the accumulation of objects or the pursuit of fleeting pleasures. Instead, it is found in the stillness and silence of our own awareness. This awareness is the substratum, our very own being, consciousness itself. Through self-inquiry, we come to recognize that the essence of our being is pure consciousness, untouched by the ebb and flow of life's circumstances. This consciousness, the essence of who we truly are, is inherently joyful and serene. It is the source of all happiness and the ultimate fulfillment of our quest. The key lies in shifting our identification from the limited and transient aspects of our personal self to the boundless expanse of pure awareness. As we abide in this spacious awareness, the limitations and boundaries that once confined us dissolve, revealing the infinite wellspring of happiness that is our true nature. By turning our attention inward and realizing our essential nature as consciousness, we no longer depend on external conditions for our happiness. We become anchored in an unshakable peace and contentment that transcends the ever-changing dance of life. This unconditioned happiness permeates every experience, empowering us to face challenges with equanimity and savor moments of joy without clinging to them. The quest for happiness thus becomes a journey of self-discovery, a deepening intimacy with our own being. It is an invitation to let go of our habitual patterns of seeking and instead rest in the boundless embrace of awareness. In this recognition, we find that the source of happiness is not something to be attained, but rather a timeless reality to be realized. The invitation is always there for those seekers who are ready to embark on this inward exploration, relinquishing the illusions of a separate self and diving into the ocean of our own being. In the depths of our true nature, we discover a happiness that is not dependent on circumstances, but springs forth as an ever-present gift. It is the eternal bliss of our own existence, awaiting our recognition and surrender. In the light of the primordial teaching, the pursuit of happiness shifts from an external quest to an internal realization. We come to understand that we need not chase happiness, for it is who we already are. The adventure lies in discovering, moment by moment, the eternal wellspring of joy that dwells within us, the abiding happiness that remains when all else fades away. Self-inquiry, a sacred and transformative practice, beckons the seeker to embark on a wondrous journey of unveiling the deepest mysteries of existence. It is an invitation to explore the essence of our being, transcending the boundaries of ordinary perception and discovering the ultimate truth that lies within. The path of self-inquiry begins with the profound recognition that our conventional identity is a tapestry of thoughts, emotions, and conditioning, an illusory self that veils our true nature. Through devoted inquiry, the seeker turns inward, peeling away the layers of illusion and relentlessly pursuing the revelation of the unchanging reality that lies at the core. In this, we recognize that we are not the transient modulations of the screen. Instead, we are the screen itself on which all experiences occur. With each step on this inner pilgrimage, the seeker dives into the fundamental inquiry, who am I? This inquiry is not a mental exercise but an intimate quest to penetrate the veils of illusion and touch the essence of existence itself. It calls for unwavering attention, discernment, and an unwavering dedication to truth. As the seeker ventures deeper, a profound realization dawns: the true self is not limited to the transient fluctuations of the mind. It is the eternal witness, the silent observer behind every thought, feeling, and sensation. This witnessing presence, luminous and unbounded, becomes the focal point of the seeker's exploration. Through steadfast self-inquiry, the seeker unravels the intricate tapestry of conditioned beliefs and false identifications. The illusions of separation and duality gradually dissolve, revealing the boundless and indivisible nature of existence. The seeker recognizes the seamless unity of seeker and sought. They are not two separate entities, but an inseparable whole. What has been previously seen as a duality is now known to be non-dual and without separation. In this sacred union of seeker and sought, the quest for self-inquiry blossoms into a journey of self-discovery. The seeker traverses the corridors of their own consciousness, fearlessly exploring the depths of their being. Profound insights arise, egoic resistance is encountered, and the mystical merging of subject and object is experienced. Ultimately, self-inquiry leads the seeker to the pinnacle of realization, the direct experience of their true nature, which is pure awareness, infinite consciousness, and boundless love. The seeker realizes that they were never separated from the truth they sought, they were merely veiled by the fleeting notions of the mind. In conclusion, self-inquiry is the sacred dance of awakening, guiding the seeker beyond concepts and beliefs into the realm of direct experience. It is a journey that transcends the seeker's limited self, revealing the eternal truths dormant within. In this profound exploration, the seeker awakens to their divine essence and becomes an embodiment of wisdom, love, and liberation. As the seeker embraces the path of self-inquiry, they embark on a dance of transformation, a graceful movement where the seeker and the sought merge and the boundaries of perception dissolve. Self-inquiry becomes a portal to the mysteries of the unknown, an exploration of the timeless truths residing within. It is an invitation to courageously dive into the depths of one's being, emerging as a liberated and awakened soul. This awakened or liberated soul recognizes or knows itself again as the underlying awareness or consciousness that have always existed in the midst of all experiences. However, saying all that I have said about awareness or consciousness in this first episode presents a challenge for those of us who conform solely to a materialistic paradigm and brings to light what is known in materialist science as the hard problem of consciousness. Join me next time for the next episode as we explore the awareness of being and continue to unravel this topic with the hard problem of consciousness.
Please follow the link at the very end of this clip to watch the music video of the theme track.